The narration introduces an utterly ordinary-looking multi-story condo building, insisting there is absolutely nothing special about it at all. The view shifts to the exterior corridor lined with doors, where the narrator hints that the only unusual thing here is what lives in the apartment right next door. In a cramped kitchen, Saojiro cooks at the stove while a girl clings to his arm, another warning Haruka to back up because it is dangerous, and he proudly announces that the food is done. A steaming bowl piled high with mayo-drizzled takoyaki is presented as someone cheerfully says it is ready, and another excitedly urges everyone to dig in. In the living room, two cheerful girls praise Saojiro's fried chicken as the best while teasingly begging Kawasaki for a share, saying just watching him cook is making them hungry. Kawasaki steps into the room carrying drinks on a tray, flustered and complaining that if everyone was hungry they should have said so earlier. As two girls head out the door saying they are off to meet a customer and another shouts that she is coming too, Kawasaki wearily reminds them his room is not a waiting lounge, and that they should not treat him like their server. Left alone with the blonde girl, Kawasaki listens as she concedes he may have a point, then he asks what they are supposed to do now. The blonde girl, cheeks flushed and eyes averted, slumps against the table and hesitantly suggests they could even go as far as doing it. Standing awkwardly before her, Kawasaki thinks that this somewhat immoral story, filled with existential limbo, is about what happens between them in this very room. The scene pulls back to a college campus where the narrator recalls a teacher who said college is like an extended summer break, a buffer period to figure out life's direction, introducing Chapter 1, Encounters and Secrets. Inside a lecture hall, students chat while the professor speaks. One comments that tonight's party sounds like a pain, another mentions old graduates are coming, and murmurs ripple through the room. From the back row, Kawasaki admits to himself that he does not want to think about the future yet, while a classmate in front casually seeks agreement. Outside on campus paths, groups of students walk and relax as the narrator explains that during this grace period everyone is free to choose how to spend their time, since it seems long but is actually short. Against a black background, Kawasaki trudges along with a backpack, sourly thinking that freedom only applies if one has friends to begin with. Remembering the entrance ceremony, he stands stiffly in a suit surrounded by chatting freshmen, realizing many already knew each other online and quickly formed cliques that he could not bring himself to intrude upon. Watching younger students mingle, he feels intimidated as he overhears them gossiping about an impressive upperclassman named Takeuchi, and the crowd's energy makes him shrink back. The focus shifts to Mei Takeuchi, who dazzles everyone with her beauty. Male students whisper that she is too pretty, that they want to date her and more, while the narrator identifies her as the department's celebrated beauty. Mei appears again at a podium in a formal suit, delivering a speech as the narrator describes her as the perfect woman who entered college as the department's top student of the year. On the quad, Mei walks surrounded by admirers while Kawasaki sits alone on a bench, thinking that she is always with people and seems capable of anything she sets her mind to. Kawasaki's gaze lingers on her as the narration reveals that although there is a secret about Mei that nobody else knows, he does. The story cuts to his apartment, where Mei kneels casually by his low table, greeting him by name and welcoming him home as if it were the most natural thing. From a wider angle, Kawasaki stands in the doorway with his backpack, silently staring at Mei sitting comfortably on his floor. He points out that she has barged into someone else's place again, while she nonchalantly explains that her own apartment lies in the opposite direction, so his room is simply more convenient. Munching on a cream puff, Mei says this is the place she feels most comfortable waiting around, and if he dislikes it, he can always hide the spare key somewhere else. When Kawasaki yelps that the cream puff she just ate was the one he had been saving for himself, Mei tilts her head in confusion and wonders if it had actually been his. A cut to the wall clock shows time passing as someone mutters that they really have to get going soon, while another firmly thinks that there is no way they will allow something. Mei, cheeks flushed and giggling, continues nibbling the half-eaten pastry and teasingly tells him he can have the rest if he does not mind that she already bit into it. Putting on her shoes at the doorway, Mei cheerfully calls back that she will come by after work and tells him to have dinner ready for her. The narration explains that lately she usually heads straight to her job from his place because, shown hurrying out along the walkway, his apartment is simply closer for her. The exterior corridor is shown stretching out, as the narrator clarifies that it is not just close, it is literally the unit right next door. In a bathroom mirror, Mei adjusts her hair and shirt while the narration repeats her name and begins to reveal that she works as something unexpected. A flashback image shows her in uniform giving a massage to a male client, while text explains that a men's est offers massages and skincare services to male customers exclusively from female therapists. Another angle of May massaging a client notes that while she is employed at a reputable place, there are some shops that go beyond regular beauty services. Kawasaki nervously holds a cream puff at home, the narration explaining that the secret he discovered is that her type of workplace can sometimes provide sexual extras. He remembers a time not long after moving in, when feeling down about college life, he stepped out onto his balcony wondering if things could not improve just a little. Leaning over the railing, he suddenly hears a scream from somewhere nearby and freezes, unsure if he imagined it. Another shriek rings out along with frantic banging and a plea not to come any closer, and Kawasaki realizes the noise is coming from the neighboring balcony. He peers upward as the sudden quiet makes him uneasy, thinking that the abrupt silence feels ominous. A close-up of his worried face against a dark background captures his fear as he wonders if something is seriously wrong next door. He rushes to May's door and knocks anxiously, calling out but getting no response and realizing with growing alarm that she is not answering. Torn but determined, he climbs onto the railing between balconies, thinking he hesitated at first yet would regret it forever if she were actually in danger and he did nothing. As he looks down into her balcony, his eyes widen in surprise while May, sitting on the floor with knees hugged to her chest, stares back up at him equally startled. She blurts out his name while he awkwardly balances on the railing, and they both register how bizarre this encounter looks. His foot suddenly slips off the rail, and he exclaims in panic as he loses his balance. He tumbles forward and crashes directly onto May, his face landing against her chest, leaving her flushed and shocked with punctuated exclamations. Immediately afterward, she shoves him away in outrage, yelling at him to back off and get off her as he scrambles upright. Red-faced and flustered, Kawasaki babbles that his mind went blank and insists the railing had been really slippery, while May glowers at him, still breathing hard. Crossing her arms over her chest, May scolds him and demands to know why he is even there, using his name accusingly. Sitting on the floor, he hurriedly explains that he lives next door and that the apartment beside hers is actually his, leaving her blinking in disbelief and asking what he means. From the perspective of her sliding door, he adds that he heard a scream and thought someone needed help, then hesitantly asks if this apartment is really hers. May suddenly looms in the doorway, flushed and furious, shouting at him to stop staring while she covers her chest. Out in the corridor, she bows and frantically apologizes, saying she knows he only came to help and begging him to just go back to his room, while the narration labels her the supposedly perfect Mai Takeuchi. A wider shot shows neighbors glancing out as she hisses that she never asked him to save her, while he thinks nervously about how high the fifth-floor drop was and how reckless his stunt had been, noting that she had been in full panic mode. Back inside, May trembles with tears in her eyes and angrily insists she never told him to come over, clutching at her shirt where something unpleasant clearly happened. Kawasaki, noticing her distress, hesitantly calls her name and asks what is wrong as the camera focuses on her shaking shoulder. He finally tells her there is a cockroach on her shoulder, prompting her eyes to widen in horror as she begins to turn. May erupts into a wild, high-pitched scream, face contorted with terror, while Kawasaki jumps back in alarm at her reaction. The narrative cuts away to the exterior walkway, noting in another language that he later learned all of that screaming had been because of a single cockroach. In a flashback of the aftermath, Kawasaki piggybacks May into her room, marveling at the suspicious setup with a mirror right beside the mattress and wondering what kind of room this is. Still carrying her, he thinks that at that time he truly had no idea what a men's est was, dismissing his suspicions with an internal shrug. A bug killer can spray smoke in the room as text explains that yet another cockroach appeared, and the two of them ended up attacking it relentlessly with insecticide. Later, back at his place, Kawasaki shyly offers May some tea and tells her to take her time, while she pauses in the doorway and murmurs a soft thanks. Sitting at his table with her head buried in her arms, May asks in a muffled, exhausted voice what he wants from her now. Kawasaki, holding the tea bottle, simply stares at her with a puzzled expression and a question mark over his head. She suddenly pops up, glaring and insisting that she understands what he must be thinking, while he protests from across the table that he has no idea what she is talking about. Flustered and sweating, May confesses that she works at a men's est and desperately begs him not to let anyone at college find out about it. Kawasaki repeats the unfamiliar term in confusion, completely lost as multiple question marks float beside his face. A close-up on the sweating glass of tea accompanies her remark that he really does not know what a mens est is, while he lamely explains that he is from the countryside. May slumps over the table again, groaning that dealing with this misunderstanding is such a pain. When he then asks what exactly a mens est is, she tells him to just look it up himself on his smartphone instead of making her explain. Small caricatures of them appear by the speech bubbles as she insists this blunt, complaining attitude is her real self, while he observes that she sounds completely different here than at school and awkwardly murmurs agreement. Later on his balcony, Kawasaki types mens est into his phone, staring uneasily at the search results that pop up. An accompanying mental image shows a sensual silhouette of May entwined in dripping liquid, as he realizes in shock that such erotic services might have been happening right next to his own room every day. Back at the table, May asks him with a resigned look what he wants in return for keeping her secret, while he, remembering how slippery everything had felt earlier, stays quiet and tense. Gazing down at the table, she mutters that she will give him anything he wants, from money to even her own body, if that is what he is after. Instead, Kawasaki straightens up and calmly tells her he is not after anything special and will keep her secret regardless. May stares at him in stunned silence, tiny sparkles drifting around her as she tries to process his unexpected sincerity. Off-screen, she accuses him of secretly wanting to exploit the situation, while he defensively asks what kind of guy she thinks he is. Sitting opposite him at the low table, she presses further, wondering why he would not take advantage when he has the chance, and he awkwardly insists he just would not do something like that. A memory shows them seated together in a lecture hall as another girl recalls him helping May before, and May uses that moment to explain that she wants to repay the favor he did for her. Back in the present, their tiny chibi faces float around speech bubbles as they both marvel that she would go so far over something so minor, repeating why and that they cannot believe it. May, flustered and unable to meet his eyes, tries to brush off her own reasoning with a muttered whatever while standing alone beside the table. Then she leans over him with a determined expression and instructs him, to his shock, to take off his clothes for now. As he recoils and demands to know why, huge text orders him to just do it already, while she clarifies that she only meant for him to remove his shirt. Soon after, she moves behind his bare back and announces that she is going to give him a little hands-on sample of what a mens est really feels like, leaving him wide-eyed. Her hand slides over his chest as she teasingly remarks that when he searched the term he probably only saw the extremely naughty shops, and his nervous gulp proves her right. Pressed against his back, she whispers that this is exactly the kind of service he secretly hoped for, causing his heart to pound as he trembles under her touch. As the scene turns steamy, she half-jokingly says that she does not actually offer that extreme kind of service, apologizing in a sultry tone for disappointing any expectations. Still behind him, she pokes between his shoulder blades and notes some stiffness there, asking if he can feel it while he answers uncertainly. Her hands begin to knead his chest more boldly, and she remarks that this tension clearly is not just about muscles, making him gasp as she points out exactly what it relates to. A close-up of her fingers tracing his skin comes with her comment that he is incredibly sensitive and would make a perfect client for a mens est, while he stammers, wondering what she means by that. She shifts closer, discovering yet another area that seems stiff and apologizing as he blushes, the atmosphere thick with embarrassment and arousal. When she moves to push him onto the mattress, he squeaks for her to wait a minute, the camera focusing on her body looming over his. Now straddling him on the bed, May explains that at her job male clients are usually almost naked except for disposable underwear, so the massage is essentially skin against skin, every touch direct and intimate. An exterior shot of the closed balcony doors reminds the viewer that all of this is unfolding right here in a supposedly ordinary apartment room. Back inside, May presses close and murmurs that the way they are tangled up now almost feels like they are lovers, making Kawasaki's heart pound even harder. With her hair falling forward, she slyly asks if he is getting turned on yet, challenging him to admit his reaction. As she continues leaning in, she explains that with certain clients things can sometimes go even further than a standard massage, implying how risky their current situation is. The chapter closes on a calm image of the condo entrance as the narrator muses that in this utterly ordinary building, the kind of girl one might pass by in the hallway can actually be hiding an outrageous secret life. Pressed down against him, May explains in a husky, matter-of-fact tone that this kind of service means rubbing the client down while he is practically naked. Leaning over his prone body with a languid smile, she sums it all up in her mind with a single, sweetly dangerous word: men's S. Sprawled full length atop him, she promises to treat him to something extra special just for him, but only if he keeps quiet about her working here for the next 4 years. Then she lifts herself slightly, cheeks burning, and looks away as she shyly presses him for confirmation that he will go along with that deal. Kawasaki, flustered beneath her, blurts out that instead of blackmail, he would rather just come sometime as an ordinary paying customer. May bolts upright, pointing at his face with fierce embarrassment as she snaps that obviously that is impossible and orders him not to get any weird ideas, insisting this was only a demonstration. Over an exterior shot of the condo, his narration reflects that Mei Takuchi's outrageous part-time job has become a secret that only he knows. Hot oil bubbles in a frying pan as he thinks that precisely because of what that secret is, the two of them pretend to have no kind of relationship at college. In his cramped kitchen he cooks alone, then hears his door open and glances back in surprise, chopsticks still in hand. Mei bounces into the doorway in casual clothes, saluting playfully as she announces in a sing-song that she is back. Standing side by side at the counter, she begs enthusiastically for a piece, while he grumbles that she should quit barging into his place like she owns it. Her hand shoots out toward the heaping plate of carrot as he yells for her to wait, but she has already snatched one up. Cheeks puffed and eyes sparkling, she munches happily and murmurs that it tastes insanely good, while he watches, half exasperated and half pleased. Later that night they sit facing each other at the low table. She mentions she has work again tomorrow and asks if she can just stay over, and he casually tells her to do whatever she wants. A top-down view shows her snug in his bed and him in a sleeping bag on the floor, as he reflects that this is not the college life he imagined, but that like this it is actually pretty nice. In the dark she scrolls through her phone, light across her chest, while he sleeps below, and his narration muses that maybe this oddly shared routine could count as a pretty fulfilling life too. The next day in a lecture hall, the professor drones on from behind the podium as he transitions to assigning group work. Kawasaki sits among several girls while the professor explains that for this semester they will be doing group projects with the partners just announced, and that this lineup is their group assignment. One girl complains to the teacher that there is only one guy and asks for a change, while Kawasaki internally curses at being the lone male in a group of women and Mei watches in mild amusement. Another girl turns to him with a sly idea, wondering aloud what will happen if he slacks off and they all fail the class and lose their credits, prompting him to stiffen as Mei quietly calls his name. With a gentle smile and soft sparkle in her eyes, Mei reminds the others that this is a required course and asks them not to be too hard on him. Little heads pop up around the frame as the group reluctantly agrees to cooperate, though one girl grumbles that she still refuses to share her contact info with him, not even for a group chat. Mei cheerfully steps in, saying that if they need to coordinate anything she herself will handle contacting him, leaving him blinking and murmuring a confused huh. Holding out her phone with a bright grin, she tells him to pull up his QR code so she can scan it, casually treating the exchange as normal classmates adding each other. Kawasaki stares ahead, heart thumping, thinking that everything about his life now feels almost ordinary except for one glaring fact: the girl he likes has that kind of job. Back at the condo, he hears his doorbell and shuffles down the narrow hall wondering who it could be since he did not order anything, calling toward the intercom that he is coming. On the intercom screen, a cute short-haired girl in a ribbed dress nervously shifts her weight as game-like buttons, zoom, menu, accept, close, frame the display. His eyes widen with a giant question mark as he stares at the monitor, wondering who on earth this visitor might be. As he opens the door, narration reintroduces his building as a totally ordinary condo with nothing special about it at all, except for one crucial detail. The apartment next door secretly runs a men's S. The door swings wider and he flinches in surprise as the girl bows deeply, cheerfully greeting him and saying she looks forward to working with him again today. She straightens with sparkling determination, introducing the tale as their story and hinting it will be a slightly immoral one steeped in hazy, in-between feelings as she volunteers to do her best. In the neighboring room, Mei lounges on the sofa, sipping a drink and remarking that the new trainee still has not shown up yet, wondering if she should go check on the girl. A shot of the hallway outside Kawasaki's unit repeats that the building where he lives is perfectly normal, apart from the fact that the room next door functions as a men's massage parlor. Text over Mei curled on the sofa labels the place as a totally normal apartment building and announces the start of Chapter 2, Misunderstandings and Strategies. On her phone screen, Mei reads the profile of Sakura Matsuno, age 20, and repeats the name aloud as she memorizes the face of the new hire. Hugging her knees on the couch, she fumes that showing up late to training on the very first day is unbelievable, while in the hallway Kawasaki and the short-haired girl talk just out of her view. The girl beams energetically, introducing herself as Sakura Matsuno and declaring she will give her absolute all to today's training, begging them to count on her enthusiasm. Standing in his doorway with her leaning in, Kawasaki stares and awkwardly repeats her name, wondering who this person is and what on earth she plans to give her all at. As she taps at the intercom buttons, she briskly announces that with his permission she is coming in. He flails and demands to know who she even is while failing to stop her entrance. She steps into his living room, glancing around and remarking that the place looks more normal than she imagined, leaving him stuttering and asking what she had expected instead. Turning back to him, she calls him boss and says she brought the uniform he requested, politely asking if she can use the bathroom to change, while he can only respond with confused huzzs. He apologizes that he has no idea what she is talking about, but she brushes off his confusion and tells him there is no need to play dumb. Looking up at him with serious, blushing eyes, Sakura insists she is fully prepared for whatever comes and assures him he has nothing to worry about. Flustered, she slips past him into the hallway, and he watches her go, still not understanding why a stranger is walking deeper into his apartment. As she disappears, he gulps and thinks to himself in panic, asking prepared for what exactly as the implication finally sinks in. From above, he stands alone by the open door, realizing she must have mixed his unit up with the one next door, and that is why she mistakenly believes he is the owner of the massage parlor. His cheeks redden as he imagines her words again, and concludes that when she said she was prepared for anything, she likely meant something far more intimate than proper training. Resolving to clear things up, he decides to call Takeuchi first to confirm the situation, gripping his phone and telling himself that is definitely what he should do. Before he can dial, Sakura bursts back out in a revealing halter uniform and announces excitedly that she is done changing, startling him into silence. He yelps that she changed incredibly fast and mentally curses that he did not even manage to call Mei, while Sakura tilts her head, confused by his agitation. Staring at her outfit, he recognizes in disbelief that it is exactly the same as the uniform Takeuchi wears at work. She stands in front of him in the skimpy salon uniform, and he stiffly identifies it as such while she innocently asks if they should start the session right here in his room. Suddenly pressing her body against his and looping her arms around his neck, she asks in all seriousness if kisses are allowed as part of the service too. A close-up on his face shows him reeling as the word kisses reverberates in his mind, and his heart pounds wildly. His internal monologue races. In this insane situation, faced with a cute girl with huge breasts leaning into him, he wonders if there is anyone alive who would not be tempted to just go through with it. Images of Mei flash through his mind even as Sakura puckers closer, and he thinks that no one could resist this, could they, as his pulse hammers in his ears. At the last second he jerks back, stammering that he already has someone he likes and therefore cannot do this kind of thing, just as Mei opens the door behind them, apologizing for intruding. Mei freezes in the doorway, eyes wide and cheeks faintly pink, taking in the sight of Kawasaki and Sakura clinging to each other. He turns toward her in a panic, stuttering Takeuchi-san's name while Sakura, still pressed to his side, also looks over in surprise. As Mei strides forward, the panel focuses on her legs and fluttering jacket, while he wonders desperately if she overheard his sudden love confession. She explodes in anger, slamming a fist into his stomach, and demanding to know why he is letting strangers into his room without first getting her permission. Doubled over, he groans that he did not realize he needed her authorization and mentally notes that this is really what she is upset about. Looming over his crumpled form, she yells that he should not give her lousy excuses and demands what he would have done if the visitor had been someone who knew her, while he begs for a chance to explain. Standing beside Sakura, Mei mutters that she only got so fired up because it turned out to be a girl, while Sakura calmly insists she believes she is actually here on business with him. Mei narrows her eyes and, still skeptical, confirms that this girl is Sakura Matsuno, the trainee she has been waiting for. Sakura straightens up proudly and cheerfully introduces herself again as Sakura Matsuno. Tiny chibi versions of them pop up as Mei reminds Sakura that she was supposed to come to Mei's own place today for her training and first day, and Sakura suddenly cries out that she completely forgot. Mei folds her arms and, eyeing the awkward scene of Sakura and Kawasaki, asks what exactly this misunderstanding is supposed to mean. Kawasaki, sweating bullets, explains that Sakura simply mixed up the apartments and accidentally came into his unit instead. Viewed from above, the three stand in a triangle as Mei demands how something like this even happens, and Kawasaki can only mutter who knows while Sakura shrinks in embarrassment. Still flustered, Sakura clutches her hands and asks Mei if she too is here today for massage training, assuming they are fellow trainees. Grabbing Mei's hands with sparkling eyes, Sakura enthusiastically tells her not to worry and to count on her, promising she is prepared for anything and will back Mei up if she is not ready. Kawasaki watches the scene and wonders if Sakura might be a little too airheaded as Mei responds with a bewildered huh, still trying to keep up. A shot of their feet shows Mei confirming that the room number in the address was originally sent correctly as 406, while Sakura, mortified, realizes she confidently marched to 405 instead. In a dotted background, Mei points out that Kawasaki was the one who let Sakura in, and he weakly defends himself by saying a cute stranger appeared so he assumed she was one of Mei's college friends, only for Mei to tell him to be quiet. Sitting formally on the floor, Sakura reintroduces herself, explaining that she is 20 years old, currently a college student, and had come today for her training and very first shift at the massage salon. Around the low table, Kawasaki clarifies awkwardly that the massage salon is actually next door, not here, and Mei comments with a dry well at how everything turned out. Sakura laughs sheepishly that she really messed up, while Mei, exasperated, asks if she could at least show a little more remorse for the trouble she caused. After they sort things out, Sakura recaps cheerfully that Mei-chan and Kawasaki-kun are college friends, which explains why Mei sometimes drops by, while Kawasaki listens in stunned silence and Mei sums it up with an anyway, that is the gist. Mei glances sideways at Kawasaki and remarks that yes, they are just college friends, pointedly asking if he has any problem with that label, and he hurriedly denies it. Her heart suddenly thuds as she blurts that she is not bothered at all. In fact, she is glad, leaving him confused by her unexpectedly flustered reaction. Clearing her throat with a little ahem, Mei composes herself while Sakura observes that, obviously, the current situation is not ideal for the business. An exterior view of the salon door accompanies Mei's explanation that although they are a properly licensed operation that follows the law, if the neighbors find out what kind of shop it is, they could have trouble staying open. She stresses that basically whatever happens here must stay their shared secret, and Sakura responds brightly that she understands, while Mei suggests they head over to the room next door to start actual training. From above, Mei leads Sakura and Kawasaki toward the exit as Sakura asks if the boss is waiting in the next room, and Mei answers that no one else is there. Kawasaki pauses, realizing that means only Mei and Sakura will be in the salon together, and repeats in disbelief that it will just be the two of them while Mei casually confirms it. In the salon room, Sakura leans in close and anxiously confirms with Mei that there will not be any sort of erotic training involved. Later, back in Kawasaki's room, he drinks from his cup and notes that the two girls have returned, while Mei strides in with Sakura following behind, still looking puzzled. Sitting them both down at the table, Mei tells Kawasaki to listen carefully as well, saying this is a good opportunity to explain in detail what a men's est actually is. Facing Sakura, Mei emphasizes that a men's est is only a massage service, nothing more, and Sakura chirps yeah in quick agreement while Kawasaki watches. An illustration shows Mei straddling a prone client on a futon as she explains that in the everyday space of a private apartment, the customer receives a slightly extraordinary massage alone with a woman. Sakura frowns thoughtfully and repeats the phrase extraordinary massage, and Mei affirms that description while Kawasaki gawks from the background. To make it easier to grasp, Mei offers to walk Sakura through the basic service flow step by step, and Sakura eagerly says she would really appreciate that. A close-up of Sakura's hips in skimpy shorts comes with Mei's explanation that after payment the client takes a shower and then puts on flimsy paper briefs. Mei, in demonstration, sits astride a prone figure and says the therapist first has the client lie face down and massages shoulders, neck, back, and lower back with plenty of oil. The visual shifts to her hands working along a leg as she adds that next comes the lower body, from the soles of the feet up through calves and thighs. Another panel shows the client turned over while she leans in, describing how they then have him lie face up and massage from top to bottom all over again. Back in the living room, Mei pulls her jacket tight as Kawasaki points out that what she is describing sounds more like an aesthetic salon than what she did to him before, and she curtly tells him to shut up while confirming it is indeed an aesthetic salon. An image focuses on her hands roaming over a male torso while she notes that in this process each therapist adds her own style, adjusting how much physical contact or what poses to use in order to make the client's heart race, and Sakura murmurs that she sees. Standing before Kawasaki, Mei announces that the final step is the most requested spot in men's est salons, prompting him to blurt out in nervous excitement that he wants to know exactly where that is. Sakura touches a finger to her lips and with a smug little smile, clearly enunciates the term sokubu as if unveiling something special. The scene shifts to the trio as Sakura repeats the strange word in confusion. Mei flatly explains that it refers to the base of the thighs, the groin, while Kawasaki realizes with a start what that really means. A close view of a client's paper briefs shows Mei's hands pressing near the edge as she explains that because of its position this area is the ultimate extraordinary massage spot, but firmly warns that the intimate parts themselves must never be touched, prompting Sakura to wonder if that is an absolute rule. Over a view of the sliding door and veranda, Mei elaborates that although there are salons and therapists who offer over-the-counter extras like so-called happy endings, and may cave if paid a little extra or bonus, anyone wanting to do that kind of thing should simply go work at such places instead. With a dark, serious expression, Mei leans toward Sakura and orders her never to perform those acts under any circumstances, stressing that doing so would be a crime, leaving Sakura jolted and wide-eyed by the harshness of the warning. Back at the low table, Kawasaki comments that Takeuchi-san is surprisingly strict while Mei, arms crossed, admits she is especially worried because Sakura gives off a vibe that weird customers could easily manipulate, and Sakura laughs awkwardly at being called out so directly. Mei continues, frowning slightly, that Sakura must not even entertain the idea that she has to sleep with the owner before starting work, adding that she has heard rumors that such things do happen in some shady places even if they are rare. When Kawasaki asks why anyone would offer those extra services at all, Mei answers that the reason is very simple, explaining that it is to secure more repeat customers and boost profits, the camera emphasizing her curves as she sits opposite him. A shot of her phone schedule accompanies Mei's explanation that most customers visit to play a yes or no guessing game and come precisely for that uncertainty, and she adds that if a therapist goes above and beyond from the very first time, the client will only expect even more the next visit, which is exactly how they are kept hooked. Sakura and Mei mull this over while Kawasaki admits there is so much he never knew about this world. Sakura compares it awkwardly to hair salons offering first-time discounts, and Mei counters that it really is not quite the same. Kawasaki, rubbing his chin, thinks that despite all this new information, something about what she is saying feels strangely familiar, and he tries to pinpoint what it is. Mei notices his troubled look and asks if something is wrong, causing him to fluster and insist aloud that nothing is the matter at all. Still bothered, Kawasaki gathers his courage and asks Takeuchi-san if she herself plays that yes or no game with her customers too. Mei and Sakura both look over in surprise, Mei pointing at herself with a startled me while Sakura peers curiously from behind her. Mei then tilts her head, wondering bluntly why she would need to rely on such games when, with a face like hers, it should be obvious she does not have to resort to that kind of tactic. Realizing how conceited that sounded, she suddenly flails her hands and, blushing furiously, insists that it is not what he thinks and that it is not as if she personally believes she is cute, hurriedly adding that her old boss simply told her her looks alone were enough. Still sweating, she squeezes her fists and explains that besides, she is really good at being sweet and charming and that the real point is if Sakura improves her massage technique, she will no longer need to play risky games at all, which Sakura murmurs she understands. Mei straightens and decides to wrap up the lecture, saying they should stop with theory and move on to practice, announcing that they will use the salon room next door, while Sakura wordlessly follows her lead. A wider shot of the room shows Mei proposing that since they are already gathered here, they should use Kawasaki as their practice model, her speech bubble hanging over his seated form at the table. Kawasaki and Mei lock eyes in simultaneous surprise, both responding with a confused huh as they process the idea. Kawasaki starts to object, nervously calling out to them that, well, actually as he raises a tentative hand. Before he can finish, Mei abruptly declares that it is a great idea, stepping close in her tight training outfit while Kawasaki sputters what in disbelief. She then slips behind him, pressing up against his back and resting her hands on his shoulders as she says he will not do as a model, making his heart slam in his chest while he stiffens at the intimate contact. Laughing, Mei tells Sakura that Kawasaki is way too easy to coax into anything, which would make him useless for realistic practice, and Sakura tilts her head in puzzled agreement as he blushes in mortified silence. Mei cheerfully announces she will serve as the practice model herself so Sakura can learn more easily, and Sakura pumps a fist in the air, thrilled and shouting that she is seriously happy about that decision. Later, as the two girls head down the outside corridor, narration notes that Takeuchi-san claims she does not play games, which lingers ominously in Kawasaki's mind. Back in his room, he clasps his hands near his mouth and thinks that if Mei really does not usually do such things to customers, then when she does them to him specifically, he cannot help but expect more next time. An intrusive memory of Mei straddling him during his first visit flashes across his mind, and he wonders frantically if that experience was actually pretty bold of her compared with what she says now. His imagination runs further, picturing her kneeling over a client and the man's feet curling as he considers the possibility that in reality she might be doing things far more extreme than she lets on. He sits there trembling with a flushed face, lost in these fantasies, his heart pounding uncontrollably. As Mei and Sakura step into the dim salon room with a futon laid out, Kawasaki's inner narration asks if he can allow himself to hope for something real to happen between him and Mei. In the massage room, Sakura obediently takes what Mei hands her and says she understands, while Mei explains that what resembles men's est in their training is this outfit and situation. Back alone in his apartment, Kawasaki blushes and mutters to himself about their relationship, wondering what exactly he and Takeuchi-san are to each other. Frustrated, he looks down at his lap and curses that he now has a raging hard-on because of all these thoughts and situations. A cut to his part-time job shows him behind the counter, thinking that Takeuchi-san always shows up at his place without warning and never gives him any time to mentally prepare. Meanwhile, Mei smiles warmly as she works oil into Sakura's back, Sakura moaning that it feels incredibly good and Mei replying that she is glad to hear that. From a side view, Mei needs Sakura's shoulders and reminds her not to relax too much, telling her to make sure she properly learns the motions, while Sakura responds enthusiastically that she will. As the training continues, Sakura, lying prone, suddenly asks how close Mei is with Kawasaki-kun. Mei, perched on Sakura's hips, casually answers that who knows since they hardly talk at school, and Sakura reacts in surprise, remarking that she had assumed otherwise. Mei muses that he is cute and seems nice, so she imagines he must be popular with girls, while Sakura, face buried in her arms, insists that in reality he is a total loner. Mei sounds surprised at that, and Sakura, lifting herself slightly, suggests he just missed his chance to socialize properly. Growing drowsy under Mei's hands, Sakura admits that honestly, if it were with Kawasaki, she thinks she would not mind doing some so-called erotic training, which makes Mei stare at her in shock and demand what she just said. Sakura's gaze drifts upward as she recalls something from earlier and murmurs that now that she thinks about it, there was that moment before. Mei leans in worriedly over Sakura's face and asks what is wrong, prompting Sakura to look up and call out to Mei-chan. Blushing softly, Sakura then asks what Mei really thinks about Kawasaki-kun, pressing her finger to her lips as she waits for an answer. At the same time, back in his room, Kawasaki hastily pulls at his pants and calculates that Mei will be busy for at least 30 minutes, wondering nervously if he has time to relieve himself. A bright illustration shows Mei and Sakura posing back to back as Kawasaki narrates that thanks to a twist of fate involving a men's est, he met Mei, the most beautiful girl at college, then also the stunning Sakura, and his previously gray campus life suddenly burst into color. He snaps out of his reverie when his phone buzzes on the floor, and he looks down in surprise at the incoming message. The screen shows a text from Mei explaining that after work she plans to bring Sakura over to his place for drinks, instructing him to get everything ready but clarifying that Sakura will not be drinking alcohol, which makes him mumble in disbelief about hosting drinks at his apartment. Kawasaki's eyes widen and he flushes to the ears as he imagines the situation, exclaiming internally that this means the same kind of home drinking party everyone associates with college life will be happening in his own place. His imagination immediately supplies a rosy fantasy of himself sitting between Mei and Sakura, both clinging to his arms as they drink and laugh, while he marvels that he might be surrounded by two super cute girls like that. Glazed with joy, he stares at his phone and thinks that the whole thing feels like a dream, adding to himself that even though he and Takeuchi-san are technically underage and cannot drink, it does not dampen his excitement. An exterior shot of the apartment complex shows him resolving that he cannot just stand around, and instead needs to hurry and get everything ready right away. Night falls over the same building, and inside his room Kawasaki surveys the plates of store-bought dishes he has prepared, wiping his brow and hoping that this amount of food will be enough. As he slides open the balcony door with a worried look, He thinks that the problem is Sakura wants to drink alcohol, yet he is only 18 and is unsure whether he is even allowed to buy any. Leaning on the railing and staring out into the night, he wonders if he could get away with purchasing alcohol by saying he is just picking it up for his senior at work. After a moment he shakes his head, telling himself not to worry, apparently trying to psych himself up to try anyway despite his doubts. Suddenly Sakura leans far over the railing from the floor above, calling down excitedly for Kawasaki-kun to look up, and he glances back in confusion with a startled huh. From his viewpoint below, he sees Sakura's chest almost spilling from her loose top as she cheerfully tells him not to worry about the alcohol and offers to buy it herself, leaving him blushing and stunned. She then pulls back, saying a customer has arrived so she needs to get back to work and will see him later, while he remains on the lower balcony staring up in dumbfounded silence. Back inside his room, the camera lingers on the prepared dishes and a bottle as he mutters to himself in disbelief, wondering what on earth just happened. Soon after, the three of them sit together at his table. Sakura ladles food while Mei remarks that she had told him earlier it would be like this, implying the alcohol issue has been taken care of. An exterior shot reveals several balconies stacked above and below one another as Mei explains that both the upstairs and downstairs units surrounding Kawasaki's apartment are actually part of their shop, while he babbles that he honestly had no idea and no one had ever told him. Another view of the building entrance shows Mei adding that only about half the people in the complex are regular residents, with the rest being companies or salons operating just like theirs. Back at the table, Kawasaki complains that the real estate agent never mentioned any of this and asks why Mei chose a place not even that close to campus, while Sakura wonders aloud about his reasons. Mei answers that the apartment had been super cheap for how nice it is, and Kawasaki admits he now understands why none of the neighbors came out to greet him when he went around introducing himself after moving in, which Sakura dryly agrees is definitely the reason. Sakura takes a bite of food, her face lighting up with bliss as she thinks to herself that the dish is incredibly delicious. She then praises Kawasaki out loud for being seriously good at cooking, prompting him to reply with a modest thanks while Mei watches, sipping from her can. A close-up of the tsukyun and other chicken dishes accompanies his explanation that his family runs a yakitori restaurant, so naturally chicken has become his specialty, while the girls exclaim that the skewers taste amazing. As they keep eating, Mei apologetically cuts in to ask Sakura how her first day at the salon went, and Sakura looks up, beginning a hesitant well as she gathers her thoughts. Sakura eventually admits with a wry smile that she thinks she kind of sucked at it, swirling the ice in her glass. Mei asks how so, and Sakura explains that while what Mei did to her earlier felt insanely good, she herself felt lacking by comparison. A flashback panel shows Sakura awkwardly massaging a male client who reacts in mild disappointment as she says that even when she tries to copy Mei, the client ends up feeling unsatisfied, and she wonders aloud if that is all there is. Returning to the table, Kawasaki notices Mei falling silent and calls out Takuchi-san in concern, while Sakura mentions that some customers even asked to extend their session, but she could not because the shop was fully booked. Mei fixes Sakura with a serious look and explains that those kinds of clients are testing her limits, and that if they decide this is all she can offer, they will eventually stop coming back, which makes Sakura exclaim really in alarm. Softening, Mei smiles and says she is sure there were actually customers who genuinely liked Sakura, reassuring her that confidence will come naturally once she starts getting more regular bookings. Sakura digests this and comments that so that is how it works, while Mei casually confirms that, yeah, that is pretty much the gist of it. With the three seated around the spread of dishes, Sakura admits she originally thought this job would be a lot easier, and Kawasaki notes that this difficulty is exactly why such issues arise. Sakura, cheeks faintly pink, concedes she understands that now but says she had been thinking of doing something more along certain lines to please customers. To illustrate, an idealized image of Mei appears in a skimpy top, as Sakura describes visually entertaining clients by wearing erotic outfits. Another fantasy shot shows Sakura herself in a micro-bikini and then a revealing sweater, and she confesses that she thought if she showed up dressed like that the customers would absolutely love it. The very idea makes Kawasaki's imagination run wild as he pictures Takuchi in a micro-bikini, his face reddening and eyes going wide in flustered shock. Mei quickly shuts the idea down, telling Sakura not to even consider trying that on her own because although some places might allow such things, it would also be illegal, and Sakura responds that she understands while waiting to hear what the other forbidden tactic is. Mei then narrows her eyes and suggests that Sakura sounds a bit too familiar with sketchy men's est practices, such as sleeping with the manager during training, and Sakura looks confused, wondering aloud if she really does sound that way. Curious, Mei asks where Sakura even heard all this stuff from, and Sakura fidgets, looking off to the side as she searches for an answer. Finally, Sakura presses a finger to her lips with a mischievous smile and declares that the source of her knowledge will stay her little secret. Mei turns to Kawasaki, noticing the goofy grin stuck on his face, and demands to know what he has been smiling about this whole time, which makes him jump with a startled huh. Panicking, Kawasaki waves his hands and insists it is not like he is imagining anything weird or perverted, but a tiny chibai Mei points out that he just admitted everything with that very line. From across the table, Mei flatly says she does not buy his excuse, while Kawasaki claims he was only thinking about how happy he is to be drinking with the two of them, and Sakura watches the exchange with an amused look. Changing the subject, Kawasaki mentions there was actually a college party happening that day, surprising Mei, who asks really as she leans forward with interest. A humorous chibai panel shows Sakura being told by Mei that this is simply how Kawasaki is, and Sakura responds with an "oh," saying she understands while Kawasaki sits speechless. Mei concedes that might be true, but adds she is sure everyone at the party was disappointed when Takeuchi-san failed to show up, and Kawasaki quietly agrees that they probably were. Flushing, Kawasaki blurts that this is exactly why he feels so happy having Takeuchi-san here drinking with them instead, and Mei clutches her glass, heart thumping as she reacts with a startled huh. Sakura points out that Mei-chan's face is totally flushed and worriedly asks if she's been drinking alcohol, while Mei hurriedly protests that she has not touched any since she is only 18. Sakura then remembers that Kawasaki and Mei attend the same college, and confirms that Kawasaki is keeping Mei-chan's secret about her job, which he awkwardly affirms. Looking earnestly at Mei, Sakura asks why she does not want the people around them to know about her work at a men's est. Mei turns the question back, asking Sakura if she herself would want others to know if she were in Mei's position, and Sakura admits that it is not exactly something she would go around advertising on purpose. With her back to them, Mei explains that for her, men's est is a job that lets her make the most of her current value, but at the same time she simply does not feel like openly telling others about it. A closer shot of her chest and hand emphasizes her point as she adds that the pay is much better than a normal part-time job, and the schedule is very flexible, which suits her circumstances well. Looking straight ahead with calm conviction, Mei concludes that college is like a game where you manage your time efficiently to get what you need, and that is exactly why this particular job fits her perfectly. Kawasaki listens as Mei confides that more than anything she wants to avoid losing future opportunities, just because people find out about her current job. Sitting around the low table together, Sakura nods thoughtfully and says she understands, while Mei calmly sums up that this concern is really all there is to it. As Kawasaki looks at her with a puzzled question mark over his head, Sakura hugs her drink can and says that, well, there is something else to consider. A close-up of the can popping open shows foam spilling out as Sakura adds that what she meant a moment ago was not exactly the whole story. With Kawasaki frozen between them, Sakura carefully sets her drink down and admits she was thinking maybe Mei has someone she likes at college, while Mei turns beet red and sputters that she just does not want that particular person learning about her job, leaving Kawasaki internally screaming in shock. Mei leans forward over him, blushing fiercely as she demands if this guess is true, and Kawasaki panics, flailing his hands and insisting there is absolutely no way. Clutching her drink to her chest, Mei averts her eyes and mumbles that there is no one like that, prompting Sakura to murmur that then there is no special person after all. Slamming her hands on the table and standing up in a rush, Mei yells for Sakura not to say it while Sakura laughs loudly and teases her to shut up, clearly enjoying her fluster. Face blazing and fists clenched, Mei shouts that it is just that. Up until now she has never once experienced the feeling of actually falling in love with someone. Kawasaki and Sakura stare at her wide-eyed and speechless, each covering their mouths as her unexpected confession hangs in the air. Turning away with puffed cheeks, Mei mutters that she has probably made herself sound angry again, while Kawasaki and Sakura laugh awkwardly behind her, admitting they may have pushed too far. In a two-panel sequence, Mei slams her palms on the counter to start explaining herself, but before Kawasaki can stop her, she tilts her head back and chugs from a tall can. Slamming the empty down with a gasp, Mei declares that all guys are the same useless jerks, while Kawasaki stares at the can in horror and calls out to Takeuchi-san. He urgently tells her that what she just gulped down was actually alcohol, and she twists around in disbelief, demanding what he just said as her face grows even redder. Looking at the unfamiliar kin by her plate, Mei wonders aloud why that drink is even there, while Sakura sheepishly admits from the side that she bought it earlier to try something different and left it out, then thought a little bit would not hurt. Sakura peers at her worriedly and points out that Mei-chan's face is super red and her pale skin makes the flush stand out even more, while Mei clutches the can with dazed eyes. Swaying on unsteady feet, Mei wordlessly staggers away from the table as Kawasaki anxiously asks if Takuchi-san is okay, watching the steam practically rise from her head. A moment later, she has collapsed full length on Kawasaki's bed, jacket riding up to reveal her stomach as she slurs that this must be that special thing she promised to give him if he kept her secret forever, challenging him to guess what it was. Kawasaki's heart pounds as he stares down at her flushed, inviting pose, internally screaming for himself to hold on before anything gets out of control. Sakura, oblivious to the details, leans forward eagerly at the table and demands that Kawasaki tell her everything Mei is talking about, while he stammers and tries to find words. As he nervously starts to explain that the truth is, Mei suddenly lurches up and smacks him hard, yelling that he is an idiot for even thinking of telling Sakura, leaving him yelping in pain. Sakura leans between them with a playful, slightly tipsy smile, suggesting that keeping things so vague is kind of leaving the customers hanging, and Kawasaki squeaks back that she really thinks so. Sliding right up against him and clinging to his arm, Sakura tells him that if anything ever happens he should make sure to come to her at the shop, while he wonders in a panic why she keeps saying things that make his heart race. Mei suddenly calls his name in a loud, shaky voice, making Kawasaki jolt upright and stutter back an answer as he turns toward her. Without warning, Mei grabs him by the shirt and shoves him onto his back, crashing into him so hard he can only shout "whoa" while Sakura watches in stunned disbelief from behind. Straddling over him, Mei leans close with teary eyes and whispers that she will personally do that special service for him every now and then, so in exchange he must not go to the shop with Sakura anymore. From Kawasaki's upside-down perspective beneath her, he reels at her words, echoing in his head what she means by doing it for him and what exactly she intends. In a paired panel, Mei looms over his chest on hands and knees, breathing hard and staring at him in silence, while he blushes scarlet and weakly calls out Takuchi-san's name. As she suddenly claps a hand over her own mouth, he begs her to hold on and not tell him she is about to, but the next panel cuts to the exterior walkway where his distant scream that anything but that rings out. Later that night, Sakura is alone in a different room, cheerfully scrubbing the floor on all fours in a tank top and skirt as if nothing unusual has happened upstairs. On the balcony, a wilted Mei leans on the railing in an oversized t-shirt and moans that her life is officially over now, while Kawasaki stands beside her and gently tells her not to say that. Carrying a bucket and towel inside, Kawasaki thinks to himself that his dad's son has just learned the vomit of the person he loves is surprisingly not that gross, while Mei, cheeks burning, accuses him of thinking something weird. Sitting with her back hunched, Mei laments that her secret job has been exposed and now he has even seen her throw up, so surely no one will ever want to marry her, but he quietly replies that he does not think those things will be a problem. Leaning over the railing again, Mei listens as Kawasaki says he already knows all that, and she gives a small laugh, acknowledging that of course he does. From above, the two of them are shown side by side on the balcony as Kawasaki says it is impressive how seriously she is thinking about her future, while Mei brushes it off as nothing special and says that whole postponing adulthood trend is outdated anyway. The view shifts to the railing and speech bubbles as he asks what kind of job she ultimately wants, and she answers bluntly that she is aiming for something that pays even more than this one, leaving him murmuring that he sees. Framed against the starry night, Mei gazes out into the dark and states with quiet resolve that she is absolutely set on leaving this place after 4 years. Kawasaki stares at her profile, absorbing the seriousness in her voice, and softly responds that he understands. The camera lingers on the apartment exterior as he hesitantly asks why she chose men's est in particular, saying he imagined someone like her would have plenty of other options, then trails off to ask what about her. Stretching with a weary grin, Mei asks if he is wondering why she did not jump straight to outright prostitution, causing sweat to bead on his face. She calls him awful while he flails his hands in panic, insisting that is not at all what he meant. A dotted background appears as he clarifies he meant she got into college with great scores and could have done something like private tutoring for a nice family, and Mei finally recognizes that is what he was trying to say. Back on the balcony at night, Kawasaki admits he did consider that path, but the schedule seemed too rigid, and he would rather avoid teaching kids and faking friendliness with their parents. Walking toward the sliding door, May explains that she figured giving massages would be easier, though it turned out to be far grayer than she had expected, prompting Kawasaki to murmur that he understands. Looking down with a rueful smile, May confesses she never imagined a classmate would discover her secret this early and apologizes. Resting her cheek on her hand and gazing into the stars again, she admits that despite everything she is kind of glad the one who found out happened to be him. Standing beside her, Kawasaki listens as she hastily adds that he should not get the wrong idea. She only says that because it is nice having a comfy place to crash where the food is good. He then mentions the chaos from when she drank alcohol earlier, and May, swaying with a woozy expression, insists she remembers absolutely nothing of what happened. On the shared walkway, Kawasaki reacts with a shocked "what" as Sakura's legs approach, and she cheerfully thanks him, saying that thanks to him she now feels capable of doing a solid job at the men's S. May leans in the doorway with a sultry smile, admitting that she has started enjoying teasing and tormenting men, the thought clearly exciting her. Down on a lower balcony, Sakura rests her head on her arms and calls out thanks to Kawasaki-kun, while he stands next to her silently, wondering if this means what he thinks it does. Later, alone inside, he watches May seated by his table and thinks that if he stays in love with her for these 4 college years, he might very well remain a virgin the entire time, the idea echoing as he gazes at her face. A close-up shows May working at her laptop with a neutral expression, as his narration notes that he seriously mulled this possibility over. In the kitchen sometime after, May crosses her arms and tells Kawasaki there is something she needs to discuss with him once Sakura arrives, leaving him tilting his head in confusion. Standing in the doorway with arms folded and a serious but slightly shy look, May asks if it would be all right to talk, setting the stage for the next chapter titled May's a Perv.